11 fake engine oil additives are still on shelves today, hiding behind new labels even after lawsuits and blown motors. One of them was linked to head gaskets popping at barely 35,000 miles. If you've ever wondered why some bottles promise race-proven protection and end up costing you a rebuild, this is your wake-up call. And if you stick with me to the end, I'll show you the only additive I've actually tested and still trust in my own vehicles, the one that earned a permanent spot on my shelf. But first, let's start with the stuff that looks helpful, sounds scientific, and quietly strangles engines from the inside. Number 11, PTFE Teflon additives. Teflon in your oil sounds clever until you picture melted plastic sloshing through hair-thin oil passages. That's exactly the trap. PTFE doesn't dissolve. It floats, settles, cakes, and builds white sludge in all the places you can't see, the places you desperately need clean. I've pulled apart engines that looked like someone sprinkled chalk dust into the crankcase and then ran it until the bearings cried for mercy. Lifters ticked, filters clogged. Oil went dark and heavy in weeks, not months. The promise is always the same: friction reduction. The reality is always identical: flow interruption. Modern engines are built with tight clearances and high-pressure oiling. They hate loose solids. If PTFE cuts noise at first, that's the silence before the storm, the brief lull while the filter does all the work until it can't breathe anymore. And when the filter bypass opens to save itself, guess where the sludge goes next? Everywhere. I'll be blunt. What looks like a cheap upgrade often ends up being a very expensive dipstick moment. And the next category takes expensive and adds corrosive. Number 10, chlorinated paraffins. They market these as extreme pressure miracle workers. Translation: they rely on chlorine chemistry to force a slick boundary layer when things get hot. Here's what they don't spell out. Under heat, chlorine chemistry can decay into acids. And acid doesn't lubricate, it etches. I've seen bearings come out pitted like they were sandblasted, cam lobes with micro craters, and oil that smelled like it had been through a fire. If you've ever drained oil and caught a whiff of something sharp and chemical, you know that smell not wear, not heat fade, but chemistry gone wrong. Engineers don't ban these compounds for fun. They do it because the long-term damage looks exactly like neglect, and the fix looks exactly like a new engine. If your additive sounds like industrial cleaning fluid, it belongs in a parts washer, not your crankcase. Think I'm being dramatic? Wait until you see what too much of a good thing does to modern emission systems. Number 9, zinc overload, ZDDP boosters in modern cars. ZDDP had its glory days. Flat tappet cams loved it. Classic Vate seconds still do. But dumping zinc boosters into a modern engine is like feeding a marathon runner exclusively salt, because electrolytes are good. Excess ZDDP doesn't protect, it burns, coats, and chokes. O2 sensors get lazy, catalytic converters suffocate, and your dashboard lights up like a holiday parade. I've watched a perfectly healthy late model truck go from smooth to sluggish after more protection in a bottle. Fuel economy fell, exhaust smelled off, and within weeks, the converter was toast. Here's the harsh truth. Modern oils already carry carefully balanced anti-wear packs designed around your engine's metallurgy, emissions hardware, and operating temperatures. Additive stacking isn't smart. It's expensive. If your plan to out-engineer the engineers involves guessing with a squeeze bottle, the check you write later will do all the explaining. And if you think chemistry mistakes are bad, wait for the next one when people pour paint thinner into their engines and call it maintenance. Number 8, solvent-based flush additives. The pitch is irresistible. Dissolve sludge, free stuck rings, clean varnish. The fine print is invisible. Aggressive solvents tear apart the very film that separates metal from metal. Kerosene, naphtha, mineral spirits. These are potent cleaners because they strip. And when that protective fluid cushion thins out, bearings stop gliding and start grinding. I've seen engines begin knocking before the car even cooled off from the flush drive. On turbo engines, it's worse. Thin oil spirals through red-hot bearings, seals glaze, and then you're wondering why boost sounds like a dentist drill. Yes, sludge is ugly, but it's also usually a symptom of infrequent changes, short trips, or heat. Fix the habit, not the oil. A quality detergent-rich oil and sensible intervals will clean a motor gradually, safely. Dumping a solvent flush into a hot, tired engine is like pressure washing a 100-year-old barn. The dirt leaves, the structure follows. If liquid sandpaper makes you uneasy, wait until you meet the powdered pencil trick. Number 7, graphite-based additives. Graphite is slippery in locks and on paper. In oil, it's a tiny, stubborn solid that refuses to behave. It doesn't stay suspended. It cakes, it sinks. It accumulates into a heavy, heat-holding paste at the lowest points in your pan and galleries. Engines run hot in pockets, oil paths constrict, and the upper valve train starts to go hungry. I once dropped a pan after 6 months of a graphite friction reducer and found a black, greasy mud that looked like it belonged in a riverbank, not an engine. The lifters told the same story, starved and scarred. Modern engine design is all about microclearances, stable temps, and predictable flow. Solids in the oil turn a precision system into a snow globe. And when the flakes settle, they don't settle where you'd like. If the powdered stuff is a mess, the next category promises miracles without tools, which is another way of saying it's not a miracle. Number 6, engine restorer snake oils. If a bottle promises compression recovery without wrenches, it's selling comfort, not repairs. These products are thickened brews, packed with fillers or soft metals, designed to swell, mask, and muffle symptoms. On paper, that means less blow-by. In practice, it means filters clog faster, oil passages narrow, and the top end runs dry when you need flow the most. I've ripped apart a seized 4-cylinder that ran fine with a tick, right up until the restorer turned the filter into a cork. Engines wear mechanically. They recover mechanically. Softer seals, stuck rings, tired guides, these are fixable with parts and time. Goop that promises to rebuild metal surfaces in minutes is like dumping sawdust in a transmission. The noise stops because the friction changed, not because the problem vanished. And if you think a fake fix is risky, wait for the mystery bottle that won't even tell you what's inside. Number 5, oil conditioners with unknown ingredients. Real chemistry has data sheets, certifications, and test results. The sketchy bottles hide behind proprietary blend and vague claims like restores lubrication. When companies refuse to disclose base stocks and additive families, it's usually because what's inside is either unimpressive or incompatible. I've seen oil pressure sag after a conditioner thickened up past reason, followed by cams scored like vinyl records and bearings that looked heat stressed. The oil didn't just get darker, it got slower. Here's a rule that will save you thousands. If a product is legitimate, it can defend itself with transparency. If it hides behind marketing poetry, it's using your engine as the proving ground. When the experiment goes wrong, the lab leaves with your money and you're stuck funding the autopsy. Speaking of legit but lethal in excess, let's talk about a solid that actually works until you overdo it. Number 4, Molybdenum disulfide, must 2 in excess. Moly can be excellent when delivered by brands that know what they're doing and used at sane doses. The problem is always the same. People think if 1 bottle helps, 2 are heroic. That's how you turn a helpful boundary lubricant into a filter plugging sludge. I've watched oil pressure fall off a cliff within a few hundred miles after someone doubled a generic MOS2 booster. The pan looked like it had been dusted with wet graphite ash, and the filter weighed more than it should have because it was packed with fine solids. There's a world of difference between a carefully engineered anti-wear package suspended with stability and a scoop of powder dumped into a system optimized for clear fluid. If you want the benefits of MOS2, choose a proven formulation that integrates with the oil's own additive chemistry and never ever stack it. Stacking fake science leads us to the next offender bottles that brag about magnetism like they discovered superpowers. Number 3, magnetic oil additives. Oil isn't magnetic. Engine blocks don't develop a selective attraction to charged oil molecules. Claims about aligning molecules, forming magnetic skins, or using ferrotechnology to make oil cling are comic book promises dressed as engineering. You know what actually clings? Metal flakes. And I've seen those suspended specks turn filters into glittery paperweights while doing precisely nothing for wear. No standards. No OEM endorsements. Just flashy labels and buzzwords that evaporate the moment you ask for test data. When a product relies on physics that doesn't apply to the system it's in, you're not buying protection, you're buying vocabulary. Real lubrication is chemistry, not magic. When in doubt, ask for the data. If the answer is trust us, don't. Now let's move from fake science to fake fixes, the kind that swell seals and then shred them. Number 2, stop leak additives. A drip from a tired seal is annoying. A shredded rear main is infuriating. Stop leak additives sell the dream of a quick fix by softening and swelling rubber. The leak slows, the owner smiles. Then, somewhere between a few weeks and a few months later, the rubber turns gummy, brittle, or both. The seal fails spectacularly. Meanwhile, the softeners took a tour through your oiling system, leaving varnish on lifters and debris in tight passages. I've seen engines go from a few dots on the driveway to where did all my oil go in a single road trip. If a seal is leaking, it's tired, misaligned, or dried out. Real fixes involve parts, not potions. Swelling a problem isn't solving it, it's inflating it and hoping you sell the car first. And the most dangerous products of all, the ones that worship nano and then deliver glitter with a brochure. Number 1, fake nanometal suspensions. Microscopic armor that rebuilds metal sounds like a sci-fi montage. In a crankcase, it's a shortcut to clogged filters, metallic sludge, and premature failure, especially with turbocharged engines that run screaming hot and demand pristine oil. The cheaper the bottle and the louder the claim, the worse the outcome. Real nanotech is hard, expensive, and validated with rigorous testing. Fake nanotech is just shiny marketing poured into your engine for a price that somehow undercuts quality oil by half. There is an exception, and I'll get to it in a minute, but as a category, these miracle nanocoats deserve to be left on the shelf. If the sales pitch leans on microscopes instead of data, you're paying for a story, not a solution. So what does work? Let's flip the script and talk about the few additives that actually earn space in a toolbox when used for the right reasons. Not all additives are junk. A handful are genuinely useful, not as magic fixes, but as targeted tools for specific problems. Used correctly, they smooth out cold starts, stabilize oil under heat, or calm down engines that show early signs of wear. Used blindly, anything can become a problem. So here's the good stuff and how to use it without turning a helpful tweak into a headache. Liquid moly, MOS, 2, anti-friction. This is the version of MOS 2 that earns its reputation the hard way. Measured results, decades in service, and balanced dosing that integrates with modern oils instead of fighting them. The particles are engineered for stability. The concentration is deliberate, and the outcome is predictable. Smoother cold starts, quieter idle, gentler wear in high-load contact zones. I've dropped this into older imports, a high-mileage work van that lived on stop-and-go routes, and a couple of engines that were just starting to sound tired. The result wasn't a miracle. It was better. Lower oil temps on long grades, less chatter at idle, a feeling like the engine exhaled. Where it shines, older engines, light wear, hot climates, or long runs where boundary lubrication matters. Where it doesn't. Brand new tight tolerance engines stacked on top of mystery brews or doubled just in case. Respect the dose. Let the chemistry work with the oil, not against it. Arc Coil AR9100 friction modifier. If you've battled cold start stiction and hydraulic electronic unit injector systems looking at you, Power Stroke crowd, you already know this one by name. Stiction is varnish meets tight clearances meets cold oil. AR9100 helps by cleaning and modifying friction at those critical interfaces, turning clattery mornings into normal mornings. I've watched rough, idle settle within the first oil cycle and throttle response come back like the truck lost 50,000 miles in a week. It also plays nicely with some high-friction gas engines that have noisy top ends, not as a cure-all, but as a very helpful nudge. Where it shines, diesel stiction, fleets that cold start in winter, and engines known for lifter chatter. Where it doesn't, engines without those issues. If there's no symptom to address, you're adding complexity without a target. Tribotech's nano oil additive. This is the rare nano product I'll recommend with a straight face. The tech isn't a buzzword. It's carefully engineered ceramic nanoparticles designed to form a protective, wear-reducing tribofilm under heat and pressure. The results don't jump off the gauge in an hour. They build quieter lifters over weeks, smoother variable valve timing that had started to feel indecisive, oil temps that drift a few degrees lower during the same climbs. I've used it on engines with life left but obvious age, the kind where you can hear time in the idle and the improvement felt cumulative and real. Where it shines, mid-life engines showing early wear signatures, owners who keep cars for years, and drivers who notice mechanical feel. Where it doesn't, fresh builds or truly worn-out mills where metal is already missing. It's a preserver, not a resurrection. BG, MOA, motor oil additive. Unsexy, honest chemistry that helps oil stay oil under stress. MOA doesn't hide behind solids. It leans on detergents, dispersants, antioxidants, and anti-wear components that reinforce the fluid's ability to keep engines clean and protected when the heat refuses to let up. I've seen oil samples look better with MOA during summer towing and in turbo cars that knew only highway on-ramps and short trips. If you're the kind of owner who occasionally stretches an interval more than you should, this is one of the few safety nets I'd point to without hesitation. Where it shines, high heat service, turbo engines, fleets that live at load, and drivers with honest intentions but imperfect calendars. Where it doesn't, neglected engines that need parts, not help. Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer. This one divides people. That's fair. It's thick, it's purpose-built, and it's not for new engines. But used intelligently in a high-mileage motor with soft oil pressure at idle, noisy top ends, or towing duty, it can stabilize the film, quiet things down, and bump the needle just enough to get through the season. I've used a reasonable dose in tired work trucks that idled all day in summer heat. The pressure steadied, the noise calmed. The drivers stopped asking if the motor was angry. Where it shines, worn bearings, relaxed clearances, and heavy load rigs that need a thicker cushion. Where it doesn't, modern tight tolerance engines, where flow matters more than thickness. Add a sane amount. Don't replace half your sump with it, unless your goal is aeration, foaming, and regret. There are two kinds of oil additives. The first category is noise, the bottles that promise magic, deliver mud, and hide behind new names when the lawsuits land. That list includes PTFE powders, chlorinated paraffins, zinc overload in modern engines, solvent flushes, graphite slurries, fake restorers, mystery conditioners, double-dosed MOS2, magnetic fantasies, stock leak swellers, and bargain bin nanometal soups. They chew up bearings, choke filters, poison catalysts, and turn your crankcase into a chemistry lab that you never asked to fund. The second category is smaller, quieter, and honest about what it can and can't do. Liqui-Moly's MOS2, Arcoil AR 9100, Tribotech's BGMOA, and Lucas Heavy Duty, used for the right engines at the right doses for the right reasons, can smooth the edges of age, steady oil under heat, clean where it counts, and buy you miles without selling you miracles. They're not a substitute for maintenance. They're not a cure for neglect. They're tools, not tricks. So here's my final word, and the product I actually tested and approved for my own use. When a mid-mileage engine starts to sound a little tired, and I want a measured nudge without messing with emission systems or clogging filters, Liqui-Moly MOS2 is the one that earns the nod. Balanced dose, predictable results, and no drama in the oil analysis. That doesn't make it a miracle, it makes it a professional. Now that we've called out the scammers and crowned the few keepers, there's one more way people quietly damage engines without realizing it. Bad fuel additives. Some are incredible. They clean injectors, protect pumps, and keep carbon off valves. Others are just bottled promises with fancy dye. In my next deep dive, I'll reveal the fuel additives that actually move the needle and the ones that move your money with nothing to show for it. If you care about horsepower you can feel and mileage you can measure, you don't want to miss that.